Why do so many rural areas in Africa remain underdeveloped, while some communities have found a way to thrive independently?
I'm really impressed with the infrastructure development in Orania because a town of about 3,000 people got their own airstrip, and every single road that you see in this town was actually built and financed by the people.
What if the secret to transforming Africa's villages lies in a model that is already existing? One that has turned an isolated town into a self-sustaining economy.
No one else can say that they built Orania for us.
Across Africa, rural communities struggle with underdevelopment, lack of infrastructure, and economic stagnation. But in South Africa, there is a small, but of course, very controversial town called Orania that has defied the odds. With a population of just a few thousand people, this community has managed to create its own economy, build infrastructure, and sustain itself without relying heavily on government support.
It's really mind-blowing to see a town with just 3,000 people owning their own solar farm.
That's why the schools that we built here, we get zero state funding. We don't get a cent from the government. And it's also not expensive, so all the extra money that we need for our schools we have to raise for projects. We want to build a rural city. Specialization in the product and services of a city with the feeling and the identity of a rural area.
Now, imagine applying similar principles: economic self-sufficiency, local ownership, and community-driven development to rural areas across Africa.
We feel so patriotic about our community, so proud. It's still small, you know, but we're so proud of the things that we have achieved.
And one of the backbones of their economy is agriculture.
Could Orania hold valuable lessons for African villages looking to transform themselves? Or is it a model too specific to be replicated elsewhere?
Do you guys export this?
Yes. So we'll sell it outside, it brings money into our economy.
In this video, I'll break down exactly how Orania operates, its strategies, economic model, and community-driven approach, and explore whether similar concept could be adapted to help rural communities across Africa develop sustainably.
Oranians are here for the vision and for the goal, and of course we want to grow the town's economy, we want to grow the town's success and so on, but our priorities are not necessarily the newest and the shiniest vehicles. Our priorities is our community and our people.
This is not about the town's politics or exclusionary policies.
Orania.
Instead, the focus is on understanding what makes it work, whether any of its method could be useful in solving Africa's rural development challenges. So if you've been following this channel, I believe that you know that I'm one of those people who get very excited when you talk about rural development. When you just say something to do with the rural areas, I get so excited. So when I saw what these people are doing in Orania, I was watching this video from Wodemaya. Shout out to you, Wodemaya. I had heard about this town, but I didn't know a lot. But after what Wodemaya did, I had to sit down and get to understand what is it that these people are doing. And you know what? I realized that there's something that we can also do as Africans. Let's talk about these things. So if you check, unlike most rural areas, Orania is actually thriving. It has got good infrastructure, it has got clean streets, it has got a growing economy. And all that they are doing is without government interference. It has got no government funding.
He rolls up his sleeve saying he will do his work himself, he will create his future himself. No one is coming to save him. If he wants a future, he needs to build it.
When you talk about developing, most Africans will tell you that we need government to give us money. That's the thing. almost everywhere I go. You know, there are times that I post videos when I go to small towns. I show people, I say, this is Nkai, this is Morewa, this is this place. And people are attacking me, Africans, saying, look at what Morewa looks like. Look at this. Hey, the government is not doing this. The government is not doing this. But look at what these people are doing. They've managed to build a town without government funding.
No one else can say that they built Orania for us.
So when I look at this, I'm seeing that this is proof that rural communities can be self-sufficient. Now the question that I have is, can we as Africans replicate this without exclusion? Of course, without excluding anyone. But can we do something like this? Can we replicate this? Many towns in Africa remain underdeveloped. Most of the African towns that I've been to, they are very much underdeveloped. They do not have a lot of jobs. They've got very poor infrastructure. And the biggest problem is we have an over-reliance on big cities. Most of the towns in Africa have got an over-reliance on big cities. There is really nothing that can be done except if something is coming from the big cities. Even the farmers, when they are farming, they do their produce, they come up with their produce, they have to go with it to big cities. They can't do anything except they bring or they send everything to big cities. Even the people with shops, they have to go to big cities for them to get stock. If you check, the diaspora is sending billions of dollars in US dollars, billions in Africa every single year, but very little of that is being used to develop rural areas. So now, of course, if you've been on this channel, we've been trying by all means to make sure that we bring light to some of these issues where we are seeing people in the diaspora doing some amazing things. And you guys in the diaspora, I want to say to you, shout out to you. You are doing amazing work. You are doing everything you can to develop rural areas. But now, the way you guys are doing it, you are doing it on an individual basis. Especially in Zimbabwe, people are doing it on as individuals. People are just doing it on their own. If someone is doing it, they are doing it in Nkai, they are doing it in Plumtree, they are doing it in Morewa, they are doing it in Mutoko, all these places, which is very good. But the thing is, what if we have places like a town or something like that where we have like places like Gutu, places like Kilifi in Kenya or Tamale in Ghana? I've been to Kenya, but I haven't been to Ghana. Ghana, you guys, I'm coming there this year. So please, let's connect so that we can do some things. So what if these places could be developed using the similar model? For example, Gutu. For example, Morewa, or even Lotito. You know, people just go to Lotito because according to what I've been seeing, all the information that I've been seeing online, Orania was like there was nothing. It was in the middle of nowhere just a few years ago. But then they started working on it and started building it. And then they started coming up with what they have right now. So what if we could go to like Mubaira or Mzarabani or any of these places that are not yet that much developed, and then we start coming up. I'm going to be bringing you a video where I'm going to be talking about what is happening in Gutu, because I went to Gutu and I was seeing what is happening in Gutu. Amazing things. But still, I believe that we can actually do far much more. What if we can take the best of what Orania is doing and then we just include everyone? So here are some of the lessons that I have learned from Orania that I believe as Africans we can actually start working on. So lesson number 1, local economic control. So if you check, Orania thrives because money circulates within the town and there is no foreign control, and also there is no big government funding. There is no big government interference. So the problem is, most of these places, like I said, I've been to small towns in Zimbabwe, even in other parts of Africa. But in Zimbabwe, I was in a place called Ngai, and I was in a place called Gutu. I was in quite a number of small towns. And when I went to those places, I was showing videos. There was a time I did a video in Mrewa, and I did a video in Chachacha. And I was showing people like, this is what this place looks like right now. And people were complaining, people were attacking me, and some were even saying, you know, this is what the government is doing, this is what the government is doing. So the thing is, if you check most Africans, they are always complaining and saying the government this, the government that, the government this. But if you check what these people are doing, they've managed to do what they are doing, but they are not including the government. They are not waiting for the government to fund them. One of the things that I have also seen, like something that is amazing that is being done in other small towns, is in Nkai. I saw some people who are building hospitals, private hospitals. They are building lodges, hospitality places, and all those things. They are just using their own money. And they actually said something that was so profound when I was asking them. They said, we are not going to continue to wait for the government to do something for us. We are not going to wait and complain and curse and say all kinds of things, saying, you know, the government is doing this, the government is doing that. We are going to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we do something about our lives and we do something about our town so that we can develop it, because our children are going to be born in this town. We want our children to get to see the good things. We want our children to get to see and also have good healthcare systems. We want our children to have, you know, all these things. Yes, I know and I understand that the government has to play its role. The government has to do what it has to do. But I'm saying to you as an African child, what are you doing? There was a time I did a video with my brother Cyril in Zambia. He's from Cameroon, but right now he is based in Zambia, and he was in the USA, and then he decided to come to Africa. And when I was talking to him, I was asking him, my brother, why is it that you decided to come? And one of the things that he said, which was so profound, is that he said, I decided not to just complain behind my keyboard and cursing people and saying all kinds of things, but I decided for me to do something. He said, I wanted to be part of the solution, because we, especially the people who are in the diaspora, we are the ones who are holding. We are the ones who have got this development that we can bring. Imagine the money that comes in from the diaspora coming to Africa. Imagine the knowledge that you guys in the diaspora are getting. And if you bring all that, the money that you guys have, the knowledge that you guys have, we can actually come up with something in Africa, and we can build Africa together.
Every time I was telling myself, when I succeed, I'm going to go back home.
Yes,
I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be a complainer. I don't want to sit behind my keyboard and type about the roads, the electricity. No.
African towns need to reduce their dependence on government funding and attract private investments. This is very, very important. Is also another thing that Africa can do, or African towns, small towns can do. They can try by all means to reduce dependence on governments, and then they attract private investments. There was a time I was in a place called Gutu, and I was seeing, I'm going to be bringing you guys a video talking about what is happening in Gutu. It's going to be coming right after this video. You know, in Gutu, I was seeing some people who are building shopping malls, people who are building big things, people who are starting businesses. There was a guy who has got his own bakery in Gutu, and he's supplying all of Masingo. His own bakery. And there was a guy who was building shopping malls. So the idea is to make sure that we attract private investments. There are so many people with the money. I believe that there are so many people with the money who can come and we can do something to build our continent. is something that is called rural industrialization. Rural industrialization. Orania, if you check, they've got their own industries. They've got local industries. And these local industries are creating jobs for the young people, for the people who are in Orania. So African towns must shift from subsistence farming only to full-scale agriculture businesses and local industries. That's what I believe. Like I said, most of these places, most of the things that people are doing is just like individualism. If someone has got what they are doing it on their own, and they don't want to do with anyone else. They don't want to involve anyone else. But if you check these guys, they started working on having their own institutions. The third lesson that I believe as Africans you can learn, in Orania they've got community-driven projects. So the question is, what if African communities took charge of their own development instead of waiting for the government? What if, as diaspora people, we could come up with like a group? I don't know if you should call it a group or a cooperative or something like that. And then we say, let's go and buy land. Because if you check what these guys did, they had to buy land. And from the way that I was hearing, they bought it for around 1 million rand. So what if we can buy land, and then as a group we buy land, and then we start working on things. We start working on our industries, we start working on our housing, we start working on our hospitals, we start working on our own way of doing things. This will help our African communities to take charge of our own development instead of waiting for the government. And you know what? Even African governments were always waiting for help from abroad. But if you check, all these guys are now starting to say, you know what? We are not going to give you any money. You have to be on your own. So this whole thing is a shift that is starting to happen in the world. And I believe as Africans, we can do something about this. We can have cooperative housing projects. We can have community-owned banks, just like what they are doing in Orania. We can have local business networks. In Orania, it's a community. They make sure that everyone is benefiting from that community. So, what's the final verdict? Is Orania a model for Africa, or is it too controversial? The reality is, Africa's rural areas need to take control of their own development. We don't need division, but we do need independence. If a small town in South Africa can do it, why can't we? The question is, where do we start? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.